Black power to the people. Black power to the people. This is Underground Warrior TV. If this is your first time coming into my channel, please smash up the like, share the video, and subscribe to my channel. Please hit that notification button at the bottom so you always be in the crosshairs when I drop one of these videos. What I tell y'all, fam, about these Negroes and the ruling class. They work together, they galvanize together to torture us as black people, because the name of the game is to keep black people secluded, not included, secluded, suppressed, oppressed. You feel what I mean? They don't want us to rise back to the status before we fail to these people. And I want to talk about Kyrie Irving. I was looking at a podcast on YouTube, and I came across Charles Barkley and Ernie Johnson on a podcast called Inside the Steam Room. This was a podcast where Charles Barkley was really hurt for Kyrie Irving sharing a link to a book. Kyrie Irving didn't say anything anti-Semitic. He just shared a link to a book called From Hebrews to Negroes by Ronald Dalton. On this particular podcast channel of Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley is a simp. He is a brother who really suffered from Stockholm syndrome. He's really hurt because a black man who plays basketball for the NBA shared a link to a book. This book supposedly have anti-Semitic things inside the book. This coon, Charles Barkley, don't know what it is to be a black man. He don't know what it is to be a black man in this country. Or either he blocks it out, or he just voluntarily worship white people. That's why he married outside his race. He said he was very hurt. See, that's why I tell certain people who date outside your race, when it's time for political issues to be fought, political issues to be discussed, we need for people who date outside their race to fucking stand down, because you take it personal. You take it personal because your particular mate may look like the people who represent the oppressive regime that's been hampered upon our people since we came to this country. You feel what I'm saying? I stand with Kyrie Irving. And I think it's a very disrespectful for those people who stop him from playing his profession, all because he shared a link. He didn't say anything anti-Semitic. And what's so hypocritical about this whole situation is Jeff Bezos owns Amazon. You're not fucking with him. Ain't nobody going to him. This book is still being sold on Amazon. Do Jeff Bezos own Amazon? That's what I want to know. Why ain't nobody saying nothing to him? You feel me? Charles Barkley is really bent out of shape because Kyrie, this is how I tell you, Negroes get on board to torture their own kind, especially when those people are paying you big money, you're going to do the step and fetch it. I sat back and watched Charles Barkley, Chris Passar, Shannon Sharp, Malika Andrews. I sat back. These sports channels, Jason Whitlock. I sat back and watched these Negroes, Shaquille O'Neal. They all hold their own kind of for torture for white supremacy. People know that those people in high places have dealt with black people very, 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 very disrespectful. Very, very disrespectful. Can I get to some of the disrespect that these people hampered against black people and no one talks about it? Let's go to Chicago, where it was a black community in Chicago that was sold houses for the price of $100,000 and the house was only worth $15,000. Guess who did that to black people in the 60s? Who you think owned the property? There was a community. You can look it up, 1967, 69. Who you think that was doing that to black people? Should I go back further? You feel what I'm saying? I could go back further in history since Charles Barkley married outside his race and his daughter married one of those people that everybody keep talking about. Kyrie Irving made anti-Semitic remarks against. Maybe in this book, Hebrew to Negroes, is some scientific knowledge. I'm not going to go into the biblical characters in the biblical scripture of the book because I question biblical scripture, biblical characters that they can't prove exist. But I know scientifically you have to be black to be a Semite. You have to be a person of hue to be a real Hebrew. I know that. So what I'm saying is this book touching on the scientific facts and the historical facts that those people participated in the enslavement of our people. I know some historians from that community has now, they have admitted their involvement in this particular craft called the slave trade, but they say it was to a minimum. So since it was to a minimum, it's okay. When they wrote the book, rewrote the Bible, the Torah in Hebrew, they the ones translated to make Ham the cursed seed. They misrepresented black people in the Bible and said that we was cursed. If you read it in Hebrew, these are the people. These people believe that we are cursed because they rewrote it. They believe the lie that they rewrote when they took the text out of Kemet. That's Egypt. Y'all don't understand that these people are not who they say they are. You need to go look up this word, C-Z-A-R. What you call Jerusalem, Israel, was inhabited with black faces in ancient times. I don't think those people got to that particular land until the 1940s. I don't believe those people in that land got there to 1940s, they so-called promised land. The first people to inhabit what they call Israel were black people. Then the Palestinians, the Arabs conquered the African. They call it the Middle East, but that's all part of Africa. So somebody is hiding some history, and they don't want these can of worms to be open. So what they do to Kyrie Irving, they're going to buck break him. This is what they did during slavery. You feel what I'm saying? They took the warrior from amongst our people, or any black person, our women, and they did tremendous damage, torture, kill, maim one of us in front of the crowd, so us in the crowd will understand who the ruling class was, to instill fear into our people. So this is what they're doing to Kyrie Irving. Anyone who speaks out from now on in this profession, working for them, they're going to cancel you all the way out. There's no way coming back, because we living in the last days of these people, and the truth is coming out. So, entertainers, black entertainers, it would be nice if all of us stood up, if all of y'all stood up, and the poor people could stand with you, because we understand what's been going on. You know, Shaq, big house Negro, he was going at Kyrie Irving too. He dragged Kyrie Irving. And guess what? In 2018, you know, Shaq bought a movie theater. Yes, indeed. Shaq bought, I believe it's called Cityplex Theater. 2018, the movie was played in his theater. So you got to understand the ramifications and the karma gonna fall on you Negroes in these later days and time. How you keep siding against white supremacy against your people. There's Negroes at home, the blind, deaf, and dumb from among our people. They just want to see basketball. They hate Kyrie for standing up being black. They've been mad at Kyrie because he didn't do the robot move and go get inoculated with that poison. You feel what I'm saying? With that poison. You know what I'm saying? So Charles Barkley tell Ernie he want to talk to a rabbi, somebody who have more knowledge on this particular subject than him. And Ernie, first of all, you got a rabbi on there who said he did not even read the book or go see the movie. You got a rabbi on there that don't have a person versing him on what he's saying. He didn't give us too much knowledge about nothing. I listened to the whole podcast. What you supposed to have done is have Ronald Dalton on there debate him. Ronald Dalton is the author of the book. You could have paid him a few dollars to come on there and refute the rabbi that they had on there, looking like a straight devil. You know what I'm saying? We know these major record labels is owned by those people in high places. We know those people can get away with anything, but you bet not tell on those folks. You bet not pull the covers off the wicked. When you pull the covers off the wicked, you pay. You owe down with your life. Michael Jackson played with his life. He didn't play with his life. I mean, paid with his life. Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, Charles Barkley works for Warner Brothers. I do believe Warner Brothers are the same people who fought Prince about his masters, and when Prince got his masters, they went on and killed Prince. And y'all believe he died of a drug overdose. Oh yeah. They got fentanyl and Percocet. Yeah. So if you have a backache and somebody offer you a Percocet, it may be fentanyl. So watch yourself. You feel what I'm saying? How come Charles Barkley didn't have a big presentation like this on Ernie's podcast about all the police brutality that happened across America? How come Charles Barkley, since he feels so hurt when black people, he said when a black person, something happens to a black person, he's very angry. Why you not angry enough when Breonna Taylor got killed? You uphold the power structure. You were saying, hold on, let's get the information before we start blaming police. I believe that's what you said, Charles Barkley. What about Tamir Rice, when the police rolled up on Tamir Rice and blew his brains out playing with a toy gun in the park, a baby? You feel what I'm saying? No one had a big presentation when the police hung our sister in the jail and said she committed suicide. Sandra Bland. Come on, man. What about all these rappers who are dying because they have insurance claim out on their life anytime they sign this 360 record deal? This is a murder campaign on black people, politically, socially, politically, spiritually, and physically. This is a campaign to smear the black man. I told you they trying to feminize, emasculate, and cut the black man's nuts off. So you tell me Kyrie Irving gets spent for 5 games for sharing a link to a book. And before he can get back to the NBA, he got to go through all these procedures. The police don't go through procedures. They kill black people every day. But y'all about to kick Kyrie out the motherfucking NBA for speaking up, telling the truth against our oppressors, just like they did Kaepernick. So this is what they gonna do, y'all, from now on, because everybody's waking up consciously on the planet, From now on, any entertainer or anybody tied to big money, they're going to take your money for waking up the masses. Let's get off into this video. It's popping tonight. We're going to get this jumping tonight. Hey, man, mash up the likes, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Hey, y'all know what it is. We about to go deep. Let's go down this foxhole.
We welcome you inside the steam room as season 4 continues.
Yes.
Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley. Thanks for being with us today. We're going to be talking World Series.
Yes.
Dexter Fowler will be joining us a bit later.
Great player, great guy.
Yeah, good dude. But we're going to start with, first of all, and it's not the traditional first of all, here's a list of things.
Yeah.
Chuckster, and I think when this news started hitting, we were like, I knew this is going to be your first of all, but this whole Kyrie Irving situation that we've seen in Brooklyn.
Yeah. The Kanye West situation.
Yeah,
and obviously people know that my daughter's married to a Jewish guy.
Yeah.
So it's personal for me.
In Brooklyn.
Yeah. The Kanye West situation.
Yeah,
and obviously people know that my daughter's married to a Jewish guy.
Yeah.
So it's personal for me, and I just wanted to address it because it's like when something happened to a black person. I feel that anger and pain But I wanted to talk to somebody, number one, Jewish, who's a lot smarter than us on this subject. Number one, Jewish, who's a lot smarter than us on this subject. To somebody, number one, Jewish, who's a lot smarter than us on this subject. And I said, Ernie, we need a rabbi. And you says, I got a great one.
I got your guy. Yeah, because I was on his podcast, Rabbi Erez Sherman from Sinai Temple in Los Angeles. The Rabbi on the Sidelines is his podcast. And we had a wonderful conversation, really deep into a lot of things. And it was just awesome. And so when you said, you know what? We need to talk to a rabbi about this. He was the perfect choice. So we welcome him to the steam room. Rabbi, thank you. Appreciate you on short notice making time for us. We really do appreciate it.
My question is, have you seen this movie? My question is, have you seen this movie?
We're talking Hebrews to Negroes Wake Up Black America is the documentary, and that's the link to that is what Kyrie put on social media last week. And certainly anti-Semitic in its content, and then Kyrie trying to defend that, saying he's not. But to Chuck's point, from a distance, as you watch this play out, Rabbi, first thing that hit you.
First thing is to call out hate. Charles, as you said, your own daughter's married to somebody Jewish, and Charles, as you said, your own daughter's married to somebody Jewish, and it hurts. It hurts not just in the mind, but it hurts in the heart and the soul. So to be able to call out hate is number one. We can all have conversations about race and religion, but in the sports world, there's out of bounds, and in the faith world, there is also out of bounds. And so that's number one. Number two, I have not watched that movie, but and so that's number one. Number two, I have not watched that movie, and so that's number one. Number two, I have not watched that movie, but the anti-Semitic tropes that are in that book and that movie are long known in the Jewish world and the world of stereotypes. So that's number one. Number two, I have not watched that movie, but the anti-Semitic tropes that are in that book and that movie are long known in the Jewish world and the world of stereotypes. So when you say that it hurts in your own community, we know what stereotypes do. And the most important thing, Ernie, that I felt right away was that a tweet by a celebrity, by somebody who knows how to put a basketball through the net, which, believe me, I love more than anything, as we talked on my show a couple of months ago, that ends up right here in my community. And I want to tell you something that happened just last week, that we had kids in our school, in a Jewish school, going to their athletic event, and their coach, who was not Jewish, they were talking about actually not the Kyrie thing, but the Kanye thing.
Yeah.
And the coach told them, you know what, I agree with that. I have not watched that movie, and so that's number one. Number two, I have not watched that movie, but the anti-Semitic tropes that are in that book and that movie are long known in the Jewish world and the world of stereotypes. So when you say that it hurts in your own community, we know what stereotypes do. And the most important thing, Ernie, that I felt right away was that a tweet by a celebrity, by somebody who knows how to put a basketball through the net, which, believe me, I love more than anything, as we talked on my show a couple of months ago, that ends up right here in my community. And I want to tell you something that happened just last week, that we had kids in our school, in a Jewish school, going to their athletic event, and their coach, who was not Jewish, they were talking about actually not the Kyrie thing, but the Kanye thing.
Yeah.
And the coach told them, you know what, I agree with that. Number one, that coach is no longer employed by that athletic team, but those children were educated, thank God. And since they were educated, they could stand up for themselves. But if they were not educated, with so many other millions of children in this country and world, then those kids might have gone right along with that coach, and there would have been more tweets and more Instagrams as well. So what starts on a basketball court ends up in our communities, ends up with the future of this country. And that's where the conversation needs to begin.
When you see white supremacists in LA holding up signs on the freeway saying Kanye is right. Up signs on the freeway saying Kanye is right. And then somebody imposing on the Georgia-Florida football game, again, Kanye is right. What do we need to do? I mean, because you first of all, you get mad. First of all, if somebody who's a white supremacist agree with you, you're like, I must be the biggest idiot in the world.
There might be a lot of idiots in the world then, right? But that sign on the 405 was just miles away from our synagogue. And just a couple of months ago, in our driveway, when I woke up, walking my kids to school, they're 10, 8, and 6 years old, there were pamphlets by the same people who hung those signs on the freeway that said those same anti-Semitic tropes. And when my children asked me what was that, I didn't have an answer for them. And so what has to be done is conversation. It's meeting the other. Ernie, what I love about you is that you often wear a shirt that says, be a better human.
Yeah.
Rich Eisen said just the other day, don't dehumanize me as a Jew. What I want to say to Rich Eisen and to all of us is let's humanize us as people. In the book of Genesis, it says in Hebrew, B'Tselem Elohim, we are made in the image of God. It is time for each one of us to see that image, who we are in our hearts and souls. That has to start now. It has to start young. And the reason that I love this show is because it has to start in the sports world. Sports and faith intersect in a very deep way. The only reason I know Ernie is because I had a love of sports, but I realized he had a love of faith. And that has brought so many people together. And I know it has the power to continue to do that as well.
You see, anti-Semitism is on the rise. You see, Asian hate is on the rise. You see, Asian hate is on the rise. And clearly, we got some things going on in the black community, especially with policing. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. You see, Asian hate is on the rise. And clearly, we got some things going on in the black community, especially with policing. You know, you just get so mad and frustrated. I do. I can't speak for anybody else, but, you know, like, I don't want my grandson, which is the greatest thing ever happened to me, I don't want him growing up and people treating him a type of way. And that's what bothers me about this whole thing. Guys who are in a position of power, repeating and tweeting, and we give these fools a platform. That's what probably pisses me off the most.
Somebody once told me that when you tweet for nobody, you tweet for everybody. And I think that's so true. I have a pulpit, but Kyrie Irving has a bigger pulpit than me. And Kanye West, I just looked this morning, has 31.7 million followers on Twitter. That's double the amount of Jews in the entire world. Kyrie Irving has a bigger pulpit than me. And Kanye West, I just looked this morning, has 31.7 million followers on Twitter. That's double the amount of Jews in the entire world. Kyrie Irving has a bigger pulpit than me. And Kanye West, I just looked this morning, has 31.7 million followers on Twitter. That's double the amount of Jews in the entire world. And so who is he tweeting for? Is it for nobody or is it for everybody? And so I think and I truly believe and am passionate about this opportunity. One of the best things that I have done as a rabbi is not within my walls of this synagogue, but it has been connecting with one of my best friends who's a pastor at a mostly African-American church in Inglewood. And how do we come together? On the basketball court. And then I think good things can happen.
I remember last year I said something about, on the podcast, I said, I did not like what Ice Cube said. Last year I said something about, on the podcast, I said, I did not like what Ice Cube said. I did not like what Nick Cannon said. I remember last year I said something about, on the podcast, I said, I did not like what Ice Cube said. I did not like what Ice Cube said. I did not like what Nick Cannon said. And I told him, I said, yo, man, we as black people, we know racism. And I told him, I said, yo, man, we as black people, we know racism. We want people to have empathy. We know racism. We want people to have empathy. And they're not going to have empathy for us if we're in certain other religious groups. And I told him, I said, man, we as black people, we know racism. we want people to have empathy, and they're not going to have empathy for us if we're insulting other religious groups. And that's the thing that bothers me. I know it's tough being black. I know it's tough being Jew. It's tough being any minority. But if minorities don't work together and just pick on each other, call each other's names, make these stupid stereotypes, we're never gonna heal. I mean, this stuff been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. But when you throw gasoline, which is what you do when you say stuff like Kanye and Kyrie, when you throw gasoline on the fire, it's crazy.
So there's something called the dignity of difference. There's a rabbi in England of blessed memory, Jonathan Sacks. He was the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, and there are going to be political differences. I'm not going to solve that. But as the rabbis who work here at Sinai Temple say, we're not here to talk about Pence and Pelosi. We're here to talk about Moses and Joshua. Then I think we can help them think a little more about those aspects of our soul as well.
Are you mad? And I don't want to put any words in you. Are you angry? Because look, you and I, aside from the podcast, we've stayed in touch, and I know how even keeled you are. I feel like I know your heart. I don't feel like anger is really. I feel like anger really has to fight to work its way into where you are, Rabbi. Are you angry?
I think there's not a moment of anger, but there's a moment of fear. The fact that in my own synagogue, armed guards are standing by to make sure my children are safe and hundreds of others. The fact that you can't get into our building unless you have an appointment. That's not a world of faith. We need to do better. And when I spoke to those children that were on that bus with their coach, and I asked them how they felt scared. And so before we feel mad, we are feeling fear, we're feeling scared. And that's where dignity of differences come in. We can do this together. Jews and blacks and Asians, whoever you are, we can do this together. So stop with the tweets. Call somebody that's different than you today.
Yeah.
Make a difference and say, I'm here.
I wanted somebody of your magnitude and just honesty and just, because I tell people this. I called a friend of mine last year, Noda Begay, who's just a great dude. I says, hey man, explain the Indian thing to me. Because, I hear all the debates about, is it a slur and blah, blah, blah. And I said, Noda, tell me the Indian thing. And he said, I really appreciate you asking me that. I said, because I don't want a black person. I don't want a Hispanic person. I wanted to know how a Jewish person felt about this situation, because it ain't up to anybody else to tell somebody what's not racist, what's not offensive. You need to put, as a black person, I know what offends me. I don't need somebody to say, well, every time because one thing that used to always annoy me when I'm driving, obviously I'm from Alabama, every time I saw that Confederate flag, I was pissed.
Fam, do you see how the ruling class prompt up some of these Negroes like Charles Barkley to come out and speak like if black people going to galvanize around what Charles Barkley is talking about? And we all know that Charles Barkley been a sellout, since we found out his personal outlook on black people in life. And he also married to a Caucasian woman, so he has no knowledge of himself politically, because politically he would have married a black woman and had black children. You feel what I'm saying? But instead he worried about being hurt. How can you hurt for another people who have always oppressed your people? And I want to piggyback off the title of the book called Secret Relationships, a secret relationship between blacks and Jews. See, there's a book out by the Nation of Islam. A member wrote that book with deep, deep, deep scholarly research. But these people here in blackface practice this tradition. They're at 150 some years of tradition in Hague, Netherlands, where these Dutch Jews dress up like a black individual or pertaining to making fun of slavery. And this is how the Jewish community of a certain class of people, this is how they see black people forever. You know, if you read the Torah that was rewritten by the ruling class, by these people, they wrote it in a way to give an excuse for slavery. They made black people in the book servants forever when they rewrote this book, and they believe it to the T. So most black Negroes, when they read these books, they don't understand these books is already tampered with. I'm talking about the Bible. Charles Barkley doesn't know that the Bible was tampered with. Charles Barkley has no knowledge of himself. Do he know how the ruling class view black people? But his daughter is married to someone from them people. How invest were the Jews in the slave trade? How invest were the Dutch Jews in the slave trade? A non-conformist Dutch Orthodox rabbi think it's time for his largely silent community to discuss its robust ties to the slave trade. In Hague, Netherlands, on a busy street near the Dutch Parliament, 3 white musicians in blackface. Fam, I want you to type in the time of Israel, or put in Van, are you with me, family? Put in Van Camp. Put in Van Camp, time of Israel. Van Camp or Van D Camp. That's VAN, middle name, DE, the letter DE, last name Camp. Put that in. The time of Israel. Anyway, these 3 dudes that you see is blackface people. You know what I'm saying? They 3 white musicians in blackface. They regale at pass-buyers with holiday tunes about Dutch Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, and his slave Black Pete. So on December 5th, this is when their Christmas is celebrated. But it's celebrated with a Santa Claus and a black slave. These are Dutch Jews in the Netherlands. Many native Dutchmen view dressing up as Black Pete in December as a venerable tradition, but others consider it racist, a racist affront to victims of slavery. With Holland marking the 150th anniversary of the abolition of this year, the controversy over Black Pete has reached a new heights. So in 2013, the Dutch Jews, Jewish people, wanted to continue and still probably continue it in their own way, celebrating St. Nicholas and his black slave, Pete. So, with that being said, this is how they view black people, and I wonder, do Chuck, Charles, Sir Coon Barkley have this type of awareness? Most black people, I'm not saying all black people, but majority of black people who date outside their race and don't see themselves self-worthy have low self-esteem. They don't practice any type of custom of reading any books based on the knowledge of self. Hell, Hollywood do not produce anything worthy of watching to show black people in a higher light. So Charles Barkley, it's a damn shame he that old, acting like a stepping fetching slave, you know, showing beta male qualities. Beta male qualities. I don't know if Charles Barkley grew up without a father in a home, a black responsible father, because Charles Barkley don't see no greatness in himself. It hurts him that a basketball player, Kyrie Irving, only shares a link. He didn't say anything anti-Semitic. And what to top this off, the Orthodox rabbi didn't even see the movie. No one seen the movie, but everybody's criticizing Kyrie Irving. Go watch the movie. Go watch the movie. So, in October of 2014, an Orthodox Jew rabbi named Lottie Van D. Camp, unconventional Orthodox rabbi, wrote a sketchy critique about the Republic. A Dutch news opinion website portrayed Pete the slave dates back to a period when we as citizens did not meet social criteria that bind us today. Van D. Camp wrote, speaking out. This was the rabbi who spoke out against the practice of Black Pete. Speaking out against Black Pete is part of what Van D. Camp calls his social mission, an effort to extend the remaining Jews of their ancestors' deep involvement in the slave trade. So in April of 2014, he set to publish a book about the Dutch Jewish complicity in the slave trade, an effort he hoped will sensitize Jews to slavery in general, to the Black Pete issue in particular. He wrote in the book, he got involved with that Black Pete debate because what he learned from his Dutch predecessors on what it means to be a rabbi. Namely, speaking about the social ills, not only give instructions on how to cook in the Sabbath. This is a real rabbi who does his research. In his book, Jewish Slave, he said money was earned by Jewish communities in South America partly through slavery and went to Holland where Jewish bankers handled the money. He said non-Jews were also complicit, but so were we. He said he felt partly complicit in slavery because of his ancestors. Go get the book, The Jewish Slave. Go get the book. You feel what I'm saying? Where he speak about the Dutch Guyana, 40 Jewish-owned plantations were home to a total of what? At least 5,000 slaves. In the area in Dutch Guyana, there was a place called, or cities, Jewish Savannah. In Dutch Guyana, the area had a Jewish community of several hundreds before its destruction and a slave uprising. So you had black people uprising all the way around the world during slavery. But they tell you a watered down story like black folks just getting their ass kicked all the way around the globe and we wasn't fighting back. Did you hear what I told you? In Dutch Guyana, where Jews were enslaving black people. They lost their slave plantation way of life in 1832 because Africans rose up. Anyway, those Dutch Jews immigrated to Holland, taking their wealth with them. Some of the wealth was on display last year when this article was wrote in 2013. This article is called The Time of Israel. The Time of Israel. Put in Van D. Camp, Time of Israel, if you want to peep this article for yourself and do some research. Just don't look at the article and read it without going back, looking this research up. That's what I did. You feel what I'm saying? But Charles Barkley want to talk to a real rabbi. How come the rabbi wasn't challenged? You feel what I'm saying? So you know Charles Barkley was pumped up, propped up by those people to speak in behalf of those people and hope black people will get on board to attack Kyrie Irving. Trick no good. We stand with Kyrie. We standing with Kyrie Irving because he had the balls to express black man masculinity. I respect Kyrie Irving. I don't know what Kanye's on because he's running around with the 2024 hat. Like I say, I respect Kanye for coming out, at least having the truth, to stand by himself. Now Kyrie is speaking out. David Chappelle's spoken out. Cat Williams has spoken out. This kills all the Negroes who's to say we are conspiracy theorists. Yeah, it's a conspiracy going on and we being conspired against every fucking day. All these conspiracy theories, black people, when they say that, they are scared to stand up against these Neanderthals. And that's why most of these entertainers, they scared to speak out what the Jewish community be doing to them as it relates to business in bed with Jewish people who run TV, radio, TV publication, magazine publication, fashion publication, from things that you wear on the back of your back, such as shirts and pants and everything. These people own every fucking thing. So a lot of people, black people, money are tied up with these people and they scared to speak. They scared to speak out. So Charles Barkley don't know shit. Dumber than a box of rocks. Or he's playing like he's dumb, trying to keep up the silence of oppression because he's so in love with the opposite race. You feel what I'm saying? So with that being said, man, you know, if you do your research all through the Caribbean, Dutch Jews had accounted for the resale of at least about 15,000 slaves. You know, this is land. And these people's landed by the Dutch. You know, transatlantic slave traders. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people who know about the history, the secret relationship between blacks and Jews that relates to slavery, that people try to go silent. So I suggest Charles Barkley to go do his own research. He want to go talk to a rabbi. That's what's wrong with us as a people. We always seek knowledge from the devil himself. You feel what I'm saying? How come this Orthodox Jew inside the steam room with Ernie and Charles Barkley did not tell the truth about the history of his people enslaving our people? Did Charles Barkley know that the Dutch Jews contributed to the continuation of the slave trade throughout the Caribbean? Did he know that a professor, Schiff Guilt, is a book that's wrote by Agur Schiff? That's A-G-U-R, Agur Schiff. He's a Jewish professor. His last name is Schiff. That's S-C-H-I-F-F. You feel what I'm saying? In this book, Professor Schiff talks about his grandfather being complicit into the slave trade. Did Charles Barkley know about the Jews in the slave trade? Did Charles Barkley know that during the 18th century Civil War, the Jews in New York was pro-slavery? They endorsed politicians who were racist. The Jews in New York supported the Union Southern slaveholders. See, fam, I'm gonna keep coming with information that I want you to look up. You know, then you could do your own research. There's a book out written by Bertman, W. Korn. That's BERTRAMWKORN. Bertman. Bertman. BERTRAM. Middle initial W, period, last name KORN. Get his book, Jews and Negro Slavery in the Old South. Get that book. These are non-melanated authors, rabbis, scholars who did their research on their own people. I find it amazing that none of these rich professors and other non-black people are not called anti-Semitic for telling the truth on their own people. Once again, the owner of Amazon has the book on display. This is about a public lynching of a black man. This is what this is about. Amazon is selling the book. The book that got Kyrie in trouble with these people. The same book has been sold by their people on Amazon. Boycott Amazon. You feel what I'm saying? Why the NBA is not talking about Amazon? Why the ruling class is not talking about Amazon? You feel what I'm saying? Jeff Bezos. Why nobody's fucking with Jeff Bezos? You feel what I'm saying? Did Charles Barkley know about the rabbi Sal Freeman, who wrote The Jews in the American Slave Trade? If they really wanted the truth to come out, how come they didn't have a real rabbi scholar challenge the other rabbi on this podcast of Ernie and Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley, inside the steam room? You feel what I'm saying? Fam, mash up the likes, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Peace and love, Black Power.